بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم सारी जन्नत में रसूल अज़ली लिखा है सारी जन्नत में रसूल अज़ली लिखा है डाली डाली पे अली और वली लिखा है सब पत्तों पे हसन और कली पर ज़हरा सुर्ख वो फूलों पे हुसैन बिन अली लिखा है सारी जन्नत में रसूल अज़ली लिखा है डाल डाली अली और वली लिखा है सब पत्तों पे सब पत्तों
Merciful, the compassionate. All praises to Allah, the creator of the universes and their sustainer, the provider of believers and unbelievers, and may His choicest blessings be on the seal of His prophets, the last of His messengers and His holy progeny, and in particular may His blessings ever continue to flow on the seventh successor to the holy prophet, on Imam Musa al-Kadhim salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. We've been considering the merits and the excellence of Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, and in particular that he should have been called by that name Al-Kadhim. Our books are abundant with proof that he is so, and the number of occasions on which he showed those two qualities. The quality that he never complained of any wrong done to him, in fact did good to anybody who wronged him, and secondly that he restrained himself from anger. One sees those qualities in the fullest. Fadl bin Umar was one of the descendants of the second Khalif, Umar bin Khattab. Fadl used to live in Medina and bore enmity to the Imam alayhi salam for no specific reason other than that the Imam alayhi salam belonged to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And so he continuously, in enmity to the Imam alayhi salam, spoke ill of him. Whenever occasion arose, he would speak ill of him. He would go to the graveside of his father Umar bin Khattab very often. The Imam alayhi salam would be at the graveside of the Holy Prophet, may peace be upon him and his progeny, and he would just shower curses on Imam Ali alayhi salam and on Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Friends and companions of the seventh Imam alayhi salam got fed up with this treatment, and once in unison gathered at the house of the Imam alayhi salam, as they often did, to ask questions and to learn from him, gathered there and said, "We have a request to you." And the Imam alayhi salam said yes. He literally thought they needed any help from him. And they said, "You are a very patient person. Your title is Sabir. We are not to your capacity. We cannot bear this any longer. And whilst this test on you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that you can overcome it, we do not have the capacity to take this anymore." So the Imam alayhi salam said, "So what do you suggest?" So they say, we want to kill this man and get over with it. And we do not see that we will be in any blame with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we committed that act. Because this is now going beyond what is acceptable in Islam. And the Imam alayhi salam gave them a good bidding, saying you cannot do that. Not only that you cannot kill him, you indeed cannot even touch him. He has not touched you. And nafs bin nafs, he said. You can only take life if life has been taken. Short of that, you cannot behave like this, and it will be a grave sin. But he said, I appreciate what you are saying, and I have taken heed of what you are saying. If you are tired of this, and if therefore you wish that Allah should stop this, leave it to me to do what is useful and what is needful without doing anything which is wrong in Islam and without harming him in any way. That made Al-Kadhim, as I said yesterday. His attitude always was that no harm should reach anyone, even the one who harms him. On the contrary, benefit should reach him who harms him. In a matter of couple of days after that meeting, the Imam alayhi salam solves that problem. He visits, he makes inquiries within those 2 days about this person, Fadl bin Amr. He comes to know that Fadl owns an estate just outside Medina, and usually goes to that estate in order to do his farming there. And so the Imam alayhi salam learnt the way to that farm, and in a couple of days, as I said, he decided he would visit him at the farm. When he visited him at the farm, he found that the pathway to the farm, the pathway that was known to the public, maybe there was another one, a private one which Fadl himself used, but the pathway to the farm was such that he had to ride over sown plantation. And so he did. And as he did, Fadl, seeing him from a distance, started shouting abuses and says, now look at what you are doing. I have sown my plantation, all these seeds that I have sown, you have now crushed them and destroyed them, causing me damage all the way. Although he kept saying this and abusing the Imam alayhi salam, the Imam alayhi salam continued on his ride until he reached the shed where Fadl would stay in the mornings, and from where he conducted the affairs of the farm. He dismounted, and the moment he dismounted, he turns to Fadl and says, oh Fadl, I have heard your complaint. You've heard your complaint that I have destroyed your seeds. How much did you pay, do you think, to sow these seeds? Because the seeds must have cost you money. There must have been labor involved in sowing the seeds. And he says 100 dinars, which was quite a lot of money at that time. The Imam alayhi salam says, yes, but it does not end there, because these seeds would have grown. Not all seeds grow, we know this too well. Some do not grow at all. However, the Imam alayhi salam says these seeds would have grown, and you would have made money out of them. They would have provided you sustenance, you would have sold and made profit out of it. How much do you think you would have made? And he says, I cannot speak about things unknown, things of the future. I don't do that. The Imam alayhi salam says, yes, I appreciate that, but you have sown the seeds. You do this business over the years, so you can estimate what your profit would be. He says, yes, 200 dinars. And the Imam alayhi salam, as though he knew the figure, as he must have, takes out a purse from his pocket and says, this is all I have come here to do, and gives him 300 dinars. To Fadl, that was a lot of money in hand straight away. He would have taken months for the seeds to have grown, plantations to prosper, harvest the seeds, sell them, make his profit. Here was money ready at hand. He couldn't believe it. He says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, what is this generosity? I am the one who curses you. I am the one who speaks ill of you, and you are here to make this charity to me. embraces the Imam alayhi salam, kisses him between the eyes, and treats him with great honor, and the Imam alayhi salam instantly leaves the farm. That evening, as usual, the Imam alayhi salam goes to the mosque, and when he goes to the mosque, he finds Fadl there. This time when the Imam alayhi salam goes to the mosque, Fadl rises to welcome him, and indeed welcomes him with most charitable words, and shouts across the mosque saying, Wallahu a'lamu haythu yaj'alu risalatah. Allah knows best where to repose His own divine message. That is in the house of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. When the people heard this, they were shocked. Indeed, his companions went to him and said, Fadl, what are you doing? We in unison cursed the Al-Kadhim alayhi salam, and you are out to shower such praises on him. He says, you don't know what charitable man this is. You do not know what noble a man he is. And he now was speaking all the good of the Imam alayhi salam, defending the Imam against those who were speaking ill of him. That evening, that group of the companions of the Imam alayhi salam gathered at his house and said, Yabna Rasulillah, how quickly you solved our problems, and solved it in a way in which we are not even answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will not even be questioned about it. What better method could we have used? And this is the lesson which I think we have to take from this episode. What better method could we have adopted to solve our problem than to have put the problem to you, because you solved it in a way in which the snake is killed and the stick has remained intact. Well, that then is the lesson for us, that the Imam alayhi salam knows best what method to use and in which way. When he finds that his shares, and this is of such great importance today, in the world of today, wherever one may be, and it is not peculiar to any particular part of the world where you live or where I live, but throughout the world, it is so important that shares of the Imam alayhi salam are in extreme difficulties. But there is no better method, whatever else we may do, there is no better method than to complain to the 12 of them, singly and collectively. Jamia is one way of doing it, so that those complaints reach them together. They, and in particular the Imam of the time, Sahibul Asri wal Zaman, Ajjalallahu Farajahu, he would know exactly what to do for us given this opportunity. Well, that was one episode which not only teaches us what to do today, but teaches us about his generosity. Sheikh Mufid alayhi rahmah says, and indeed Ibn Shahr Ashub says this, Sheikh Sadduq alayhi rahmah says it, indeed we have seen the Sunnite sources which say this, and I deliberately read that passage in those sources which says that when the Imam alayhi salam would move out of his house, he would have with him 200 to 400 dinars all the time. That sum was a vast sum of money at that particular point in time. And the only function of that money was not shopping for himself or his family, but to give out to those who seek help. That was the method of the charity in which he lived. But he not only made charity himself, he encouraged his followers to do charity likewise. And a well-settled example set out in our books from Sheikh Sadduq alayhi rahmah is, now this comes from Lama Majlisi alayhi rahmah, is that there was a Shia who got into debts. There were taxes from the government to be paid, which he was not able to pay. And a clerk would issue warnings to him, saying, you must pay this. A time came when that clerk became the governor of the area. He knew that this person owed the state considerable amount in taxes. And then he was told that this man is not a Shia, when in fact he was. And this governor was privately a Shia. And so he administered the law strictly and sternly to him. Indeed, reached the stage at which he threatened him with imprisonment. That particular point in time, this man decided the only way was to go to Hajj, because in so doing he would be able to meet the Imam alayhi salam, and he met the Imam alayhi salam. He told him of his predicament, setting out the problem to him and saying that I have no solution, I do not have the money. The Imam alayhi salam could easily have given him the money, but that was not his purpose. He sat and wrote a letter when he heard that this man was a Shia. Of course, as we have already seen, and we saw this from the life of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, how he showed it to Abu Basir. He says, we have got in our Jami'ah the complete list of our Shias. So he knew who his Shia was, and obviously this man was in his list. Writes a letter saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in heaven there is the arsh of Allah, and beneath the arsh is the shade, the dhillur arsh, the shade. And in that shade, only the fortunate will have place on the day of judgment. And although this is not written in the letter only to elucidate on it, on the day of judgment, there will be ferocious heat unbearable by ordinary humans. And the entire humanity will be in that heat. The only question then will be, how does one protect oneself from the heat? And it is said, those who will find a place under the shade of the arsh, dhillul arsh, they of course will protect themselves against the heat. The Imam alayhi salam mentions of that dhill and proceeds to say that only those people will find a place in that shade who help other people in any manner in which they need help. It may be physical help, it may be financial help, it may be help of any manner. And so he says, those people only will get help. Or a person who removes the sorrow of another mu'min. A mu'min in sorrow helped so that his sorrow is alleviated. He says, or a person who brings happiness into the hearts of other people. So he set out the qualifications. One of those three categories only will be in the dhil. And having said that, he says, wassalam, and signs the letter with his seal. Tells this man, when you go back to your town, take this letter and give it to him. But before you give it to him, tell him that it comes from me. So this man happily takes the letter to the house of this governor. Usually, entrance would not be permitted into the house. So he tells the watchman that I've got a letter for him from Musa ibn Ja'far, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. The messenger goes in and says, this is what this man says. So he says, the governor says, hold on, you stay where you are. I will go myself. Dresses up and goes out to meet him. And this man says, yes, I have a letter from him. Embraces him, kisses him, takes him in. Knows the fellow too well. Knows the fellow to be one who has a heavy debt of taxes. Not therefore an honorable man in his eyes. But once he says he's got a letter from the Imam alayhi salam, the entire attitude of this person changes. Receives him in the home, takes the letter, kisses the letter, opens the letter, and says, yes, indeed, I have followed the message of the Imam alayhi salam. But I never knew that you are so close to the Imam alayhi salam that even his correspondence would be sent to me through your noble hands. The entire chapter now has changed. He goes in, removes some of his precious clothes, comes and says, now we must share what I have. I have got to do all the three things. I have got to help you financially because you are in financial problem. I have got to remove the sorrow from your heart. And I have got to remove, and I have got to put happiness into your heart. So, I will remove the sorrow from your heart because I know what your sorrow is. calls for the book of taxes and erases the name of this person as a debtor. He says, now you do not owe any money to the state, all your taxes are waived. That, he says, is to remove the sorrow from your heart. These clothes, and in addition this money, is to give you financial help. And eventually, this treatment I am giving you is to make sure that you become happy with me and you have happiness in your heart. Tell me what else you need so that the qualification of happiness is fully achieved. And he says, I am happier than any happiness you wanted to repose to me. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He should give you that place in the will of Arsh. And I will report to my Sayyid saying what you have given me so that he prays for you. When he goes back to Medina, because he decided he must do this, he decides to do it because he took the view that he could not repay the governor in any way. His status was far beneath that which Allah had given to this governor. But he could pray for him, and he did. And this is the great lesson for us, that we pray for each other. I've said this before, but it can never be overstated. Sila Rahim, doing good to each other, carries great thawab of unlimited latitudes. Tomorrow, inshallah, we shall see yet another example taught by the seventh Imam alayhi salam, and day after too, day after, in a much more important manner than even today and tomorrow. However, one method of Sila Rahim is dua. This request by us to each other for dua in this mosque and in the Imambara is not in vain. Is not in vain. Because that request is very dear to the Imam alayhi salam and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then following up that dua, after salah, for example, saying, oh Allah, so and so asked me to pray for him. There are those I met in the mosque, but there were a few too many for me to remember the names of them all. But you know them all. You know each one who asked me to pray for him. Oh Allah, fulfill all their wishes. Remove all sorrow from them. Allah is pleased with it. Because His, subhanahu wa ta'ala, His scheme is that we build our lives in spirit in a way in which we match His level. We match His qualities. His greatest fundamental quality indeed is mercy on others, welfare for His creatures. When He therefore sees one of His creatures doing exactly that, seeking the welfare of those whom He has created, seeking mercy on those whom He is placing mercy, He finds him even more worthy of mercy than the mercy He has always showered on him. I have set out the hadith to you in the year 2000, and I will not take your time to restate it to you, save perhaps a quick reminder. Imam Hassan alayhi salam says he finds his mother all night in prayer. One night he hides himself to say, what is my mother praying for? What are these prayers that last all night? It was Laylatul Jum'ah. He keeps awake, hides himself to listen to his mother, and finds his mother praying for everybody you could think of. Oh Allah, this neighbor is sick, cure him of his problems. Such and such as neighbor's son has lost his job, get him a job. So and so is not receiving enough from his salary to meet his sustenance. Give him barakah in what he earns. So and so has that. Imam Hassan alayhi salam at dawn goes to his mother and says, Mother, I was there. You named everyone. And this is the difference between us and them. We meet many of our friends here. We do not remember the names of all those who asked us to pray for them. They do. And not only do they do, but they pray for us by name. And so does Sahibul Hujjah Ajjalallahu Faraja today for us all. Particularly on Laylatul Jum'ah. Imam Hassan alayhi salam turns to his mother. I do not want to detain you. I'll finish the story quickly. Turns to the mother and says, Oh mother, you prayed for all those people and I heard all those names and you did not even utter my name. Mother, you didn't pray for me. And the mother says, Oh my son, awwal jar wa ba'd dar. First we must remember our neighbors, then we must remember you. The night happened to be short. The night was finished. Whilst I was praying for others, I did not even reach your name. This is the teaching, and hence this spirit of praying for each other is of immense importance in that way. And so this person says that I could not pray for Yahya bin Khalid, that was the name of the governor, because of his status. I went to the Imam alayhi salam. I would pray for him myself, and I went to the Imam alayhi salam so that the Imam should know how this person reacted to his request and pray for him. And Imam's prayers would be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, having done Hajj, when I got to the 7th Imam alayhi salam, and as I entered, the Imam alayhi salam receives me and says, how well has the governor treated you, and how kind he has been to you. The Imam alayhi salam appeared to know everything that passed. He says, and he used to call him Sayyidu Sabir, Ya Sayyidu Sabir, you knew too well all that happened. My life has come to change as a result. I owe it all to you. I pray for you, and may my life be sacrificed for you. But I've come to ask you to pray for him. The Imam alayhi salam says, yes, I do pray for him, but you owed it to him. How strong are the words. You owed it to him that you should come and ask me to pray for him. And this is how he continued teaching, taught the one who was in trouble, taught the one who could do good. And all our salams and thanks to the Imam alayhi salam, taught in such a way that his reporters continued to report this. May Allah have mercy on Sheikh Sudduq and all those who have on Allama Majlisi and all those who have reported this, so that these reports reach us today, so that we today know what are the footprints that we should look for and live on throughout our lives. But he did this in multifarious ways. Another instance well set out in our books, Allama Hilli rahmatullah alayhi sets this out in his work. He says that Bushr bin Hafi lived a life that was very reprehensible. Ma'adallahi ta'ala, he would use intoxicating drink and indulged in songs and in music. The Imam alayhi salam was much disturbed. But as you saw in the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, how Shukrani was improved without even his wrongs being said to him. This is a fantastic way of doing Amr bil Ma'ruf. Doing Amr bil Ma'ruf in a way in which the person who is addressed is not offended in the least. He is not even told what wrong he does. That wrong is not even mentioned to him. And yet, the wrong is imprinted on his mind, and he finds ways of correcting his wrong in a surreptitious but amazing, miraculous way. The Imam alayhi salam decides one day that he will go to his house. And as he reaches the house, alas, he hears ghina. Ghina is the word he used. He hears songs being sung from that house. Today we do not even need that. We have instruments which does the singing for us. Still worse for us. Because those people had to undertake greater trouble to get that pleasure from the music and the singing. But when he heard this, he was alarmed and he was pained. In the meantime, just as he arrives, a lady comes out of the house with rubbish to throw the rubbish away. The Imam alayhi salam waits. She throws the rubbish and comes to the Imam alayhi salam and says, have you come to visit the owner of the house? The Imam alayhi salam says, dare I visit him? So she says, why do you ask? The Imam alayhi salam says, is this person who is the owner of the house a free man or a slave? So the lady says, he is a free man. And the Imam alayhi salam says, how very true you are. what a free man he is, and how true he is, but a free man to behave as he likes, to indulge in ghina, and goes away from there. In other words, refuses even to enter that house to do Amr bil Maruf or whatever else he wanted to do. This is the seriousness of these musical sing-songs in our houses. The Imam alayhi salam refuses to step into that house. We look to the angels visiting our homes. We look to the Imam Zaman Ajjalallahu Farajahu visiting our homes. Nay, in these days, we look to Bibi Fatima to Zahra Salamullahi alayha visiting our homes. That alam that is kept in the house is to welcome her into the house. But they refuse to enter if such things go on. The lady goes in. The man says, why did you take so long? I wanted a drink. My drink is over. You were only to throw rubbish and come in. And she said, I met a person who wanted to come and see you and then changed his mind. So he says, what? He says, yes. What did he ask? She says, he only asked one thing. Whether you were a slave or a free man. Bushr says, how can he ask that? No slave owns a house like this. No slave lives in this manner. And how could I be the owner? He says, is the owner of this house a slave or a free man? How can the owner be a slave? There is obviously a deeper meaning to this. The lady says, I didn't ask. He only asked me that question. I said you were a free man. And he said, how true? How true? He really is a free man to behave as he pleases. The message reached home instantly. Bushr said, I understood what was meant. So I said, but who is this man? Who is this man to speak in such elliptical way and yet carry his message through so succinctly? He immediately rushes out of the house. Only one person he sees moving away, chases the person, finds him, stops him and says, Yabna Rasulillah, you were coming to my home and you changed your mind. And Imam says, Bushr, I had a message to give you. And I've sent the message to you. I hope you have received it. And walks away. Bushr said, yes, Yabna Rasulillah, I have received the message. Comes home and says to that lady, all these methods of singing and music should now be totally destroyed. The drinks in the house must all be destroyed and must never a drop of it be seen in this house. Visits the Imam alayhi salam and says, Mawla, I was not worthy that you should visit me, nor would I have been worthy to visit you except that I have done tawbah. But I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to you that you have caused me to learn all this. You have caused me to know that all this haram and I would be questioned on the day of judgment, and I have stopped all this only so that your precious feet can enter my house and I would be received by you as you have received me now. This is how he lived. And indeed, he himself lived in such fear of Allah constantly, all the time. I said how much istighfar he would do, 5,000 times every night. But it is said that even during the day, people would visit him. He would be alone at a time when he would be alone. And they would find him weeping and crying so much that his beard would be wet with tears. And they would say, Yabna Rasulillah, what has happened? Why this state? And he would say, the fear of Allah is what puts me into this fear that I cannot resist myself from weeping and crying this much. Indeed, the hadith of the Holy Prophet, may peace be upon him and his progeny, is that even if one tear comes out of your eye on the day of judgment, that one tear has the capacity to extinguish the fire of hell for you. So, taqwa, that fear of Allah, that one should not disobey Him, and one should feel repentance for having disobeyed in the past, has that huge capacity. The Imam alayhi salam, worthy and knowing of that hadith, every day indulged in it, so that his beard, it is said, became wet with his tears. And he continued to impart that knowledge in that way, and to practice these principles, teaching them to his Shias in equal measure all the time. But of the knowledge, so much was given, and it was given in a way that propagated Islam. He was in Damascus, just as we discussed once about Imam Muhammad Baqir salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. One finds that very example reiterated in the time of Al-Kadhim alayhi salam. He was in Damascus, and when there was a gathering at which the bishop would arrive, the leading bishop would arrive. And when he was there, the bishop was there, the Imam alayhi salam happened to pass, so he stopped seeing this great gathering of people. The bishop, on seeing him, calls him near and says, are you amongst us or one of us? The Imam alayhi salam says, no, I am not. So he would not, despite his physical presence there, he said, I'm not amongst you, meaning spiritually I'm not with you. Physical presence being of not that importance as a spiritual presence. So the person says, are you then from Ummatul Marhuma, from the Ummah, from the community of the people of the last prophet, may peace be upon him and his progeny? And he says, yes, indeed I am. So the bishop says, are you from amongst the learned, the scholars, or are you amongst the ignorant and the illiterate? He gives a beautiful answer. He says, no, I am not amongst the ignorant and the illiterate. Didn't call himself of the scholars and the learned. Indeed, he was the tutor of the scholars. But he only said was, I'm not amongst the ignorant. And the bishop then said, so much light comes from your face that I am anxious to ask you a few questions which trouble me. And he says, yes, do ask the questions. And the first question he asked is that we in our books talk of the tree of Tuba in heaven. And this was since the time of Nabi Isa. And since then, Tuba has been conferring blessings on the virtuous. You who belong to the community of the Holy Prophet talk of Tuba until today, and the roots of Tuba, how deep they are, and the branches, and how well spread the branches are throughout heaven, and how the virtuous on earth receive the fruit from Tuba in this world before they even reach heaven. And indeed, this is the position. In the A'mal of the 1st of Sha'ban, the Holy Prophet said that those who revere this month will be of those who eat from the fruits of Tuba. But that is only one instance. So many other virtues are set out. This bishop says, you believe them too. So how does this Tuba work? Is it still in heaven? And does it still extend its blessings? And for how long will it extend these blessings? What elucidation can you give me with regard to the position of the world today? And the Imam alayhi salam instantly, as all Imams would, without a second thought about the question, says, "O Bishop, the answer is simple. The example of Tuba in heaven is like that of the sun on his earth. This very sun was shining at the time of Nabi Isa. It still is shining today. Not only does it shine, but it sends out its radiance to all the people under it throughout this world and many other worlds." We discussed that last Saturday night. And many other worlds. And that sunshine provides vegetation, provides life to humans, life to the beasts, and that benefit from the sun goes like the fruit of Tuba to all the creatures of the world. Tuba is for the virtuous. Sunshine, its rays and the benefit from it is from all creatures of Allah. The bishop says this is impressive, and it is so true. And then he says, but of heaven you people say in your books that the fruits of heaven will be such that the dwellers of heaven will keep eating those fruits, and yet they will never diminish. La maqtu'atin wa la mamnu'a, Surah Waqi'ah. They are fruits which will not be cut off at any time, as they are in this world. Mangoes have just begun to come out, I notice, but they will soon go, and you will be without mangoes once again. In heaven there will be mangoes if you want them all the time. There are not even seasons. La maqtuatin wa la mamnu'a, and there will be no forbidding. Anybody can ask for them. How will that happen? And the Imam alayhi salam says it's like a lamp. The lamp keeps providing light without the lamp in itself diminishing in any way. It is la maqtuatin wa la mamnu'a. There is nobody who is forbidden to receive those rays of light. And it keeps radiating its light without in any way diminishing in its radiance. He then says, yes, I noticed that, but then in heaven you say there will be no excretion. You say there will be so much eating, and indeed, lahm at-tayr will be there, chicken in other words, will be served, and all kinds of fruits, and endless fruits. So he says, if people will keep eating there, and yet no question of urination, no question of excretion, how does that work? And he says, oh Bishop, don't you see how that little child in the womb of the mother lives? That child receives food, receives milk. There is no excretion from that child. That is the child who is sinless. That is the child who lives in the spirit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is how people will live in heaven. And those who are sinless and live in that spirit do not have excretion made from their food. That is the level of the heavenly spirits who will be living in heaven at the time. Then he says, well, but you say that in heaven you will not need even to ask for a fruit. Once you have the desire of having a certain fruit, the moment you have that desire, that fruit will be made available for you, or that food will be made available. How does that work? And the Imam alayhi salam says, well, order has not been issued. The Imam says, no, order is issued. Says the moment in heaven you form the intent, and this is true in the world too. The moment you form an intent, your bodily impressions change. You evince that intention in your expressions and in your desire and in the movement of your hands and your feet. And those movements are enough to trigger an order which results in the supply of the fruits. The bishop says, this is amazing, the way in which you are able to explain all this in this world. And if this is what Islam teaches, if this is the way in which these expressions are explained, then I wish to be a Muslim now. The bishop becomes a Muslim in the hands of the Imam alayhi salam. All those surrounding him, seeing him become a Muslim, become Muslims too. The manner of expressing, the manner of teaching his people what to do and how to do things. Time is passing, but I want to put in one more example before I move to Masaib. And this is the example of Ali ibn Yaqtin. And I do this out of fear of the clock, lest we do not have the opportunity to speak about him. It is of immense importance to discuss Ali ibn Yaqtin in the context of Imam Kadhim alayhi salam. Ali ibn Yaqtin was a minister in the government of Harun al-Rashid, la'natullah alayh. He was a Shia in the true sense of the word, and had permission from the Imam alayhi salam to be a minister of that die-hard enemies of the Shias. I discussed this on Saturday night with you. That degree of knowledge, how even mujtahids today encourage us to take part in social affairs and in society so that we can improve the condition of the Shias. And that must be the sole aim, rather the predominant aim. Ali ibn Yaqtin was allowed to do so. Once, because of his magnificent work, Al-Rashid, la'natullah alayh, calls him and says, Ali ibn Yaqtin, I'm very pleased with you, and I want to shower some gifts on you. That was not new for Ali ibn Yaqtin, because he had been vested with such gifts before. And Harun gives him robes of importance, because then he can wear those robes in the court of Rashid and carry honor accordingly. But he gave him one particular cloak. He said, this cloak is very precious, very important. And in it was gilded, it was ornamented, decorated with gold. Take care of this and value this. And thanks, Rashid. But as was the practice of Ali ibn Yaqtin, whenever he got something he valued, whenever he got something that he regarded as precious, he would immediately send to the seventh Imam alayhi salam. So on that occasion too, he collected all these robes and the clock, called his trusted Shia servant, handed them to him, and the money that he had accumulated. Ali ibn Yaqtin had the method of setting aside his khums regularly, not like us making accounts and then often finding that we are in arrears. He made his account instantly and set aside the money as it came. 1/5 set aside for the Imam alayhi salam. He picked all that money, gives to the servant and says, send them all to Al-Kadhim alayhi salam. The servant takes them all to the Imam alayhi salam as usual. When the Imam alayhi salam receives them, he keeps the money, because that is khums. It is his duty to receive it and spend it in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he takes the robes and keeps them, but singles out the cloak and tells the servant, take this cloak back to your master, and I'm writing a letter to him. And in that letter he says, Ali, I have received the robes and the money. I am returning the cloak, but no misunderstanding about it. I am not returning it out of any displeasure. This is why I kept the robes. I am returning it only because soon a day will come when you will need this cloak in relation to the one who has presented it to you. Wassalam. When this letter comes, he says, I just can't understand this. Why did the Imam return it? And the Imam alayhi salam knew that Ali ibn Yaqtin would be deeply troubled by the return by the Imam of a gift sent by him to the Imam alayhi salam. He reads the other sentence, says, well, he knows better. Maybe I will need it. And hence he folds it, perfumes it, and keeps it in his box and seals it. Many ministers who were jealous of Ali ibn Yaqtin, and they perhaps even knew that he was a Shia. There were certainly people in the intelligence service who knew that he was a Shia. So they would spread word to Rashid to say, you trust this minister so much. He is one of your most favored ministers entirely because of his competence and his loyalty. The teaching from the Imam alayhi salam being that you must exercise your duties and discharge your functions with utmost of loyalty. Whoever you might be working for, whoever you might be answerable to in respect of those duties, regardless of whether he is even the die-hard enemy of the Imam alayhi salam. And so Ali ibn Yaqtin did, and the other ministers who did not discharge their functions that well became jealous. But one day, one of his servants misbehaved, and Ali ibn Yaqtin had to dismiss him from service. He goes to one of those ministers. And those ministers, that minister goes to Harun and says, I always told you, I now have proof that he is not loyal to you, he is loyal to Al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Harun says, bring the proof to me, because I find it hard to believe that. And he calls this servant who says, I know that the cloak you have given him has also gone with the money to Al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Now the money could not be proved either way, but the cloak could. And Harun al-Rashid says, very well, I will take steps on that immediately. He calls Ali ibn Yaqtin and says, Ali ibn Yaqtin, do you remember that cloak I gave you? And he was called at night suddenly. He couldn't understand why he should be called at that time, but he visits al-Rashid. He says, do you remember that cloak? And he says, yes, very well. How could I not? You said it was precious, and what a beautiful gift it was from you. How could I not remember it? So he says, where have you kept it? He says, I've kept it perfumed with perfumery, and I've kept it in my closet, guarded in the chest, and it is sealed. Harun did not believe that, because he believed that informer, as is the want of tyrants at all periods of time. So Harun says, get it for me immediately. Stay here, send your servant to get it. So immediately he calls for the servant of Harun, says, go to my house. And the servant of Harun, of course, would be known by the servant of the minister. Tell him to give you the keys to my private room. When you get to the private room, this is a key I'm giving you of my closet. Open the closet. You will be able to do no more. You will see the chest. Bring the whole chest here. And so he did. When the chest was sent, Ali ibn Yaqtin opened the chest with his own key in the presence of Harun, and says, Harun, the cloak is contained in this box. You break the seal yourself and open it. In his impatience, Harun breaks the seal, opens it, finds the cloak there with perfumery, embraces Ali ibn Yaqtin and says, Ali, never from today will I believe any person who comes to give me any false information regarding you. Any information against you, I will know is false. Look at the loyalty with which you have acted. Not only is the cloak here with you, which belies the informer, but look at the way in which you have looked after this cloak. Kept it in perfumery so that it scents so beautiful even today, days after I've given it to you. And he goes away. When he goes away, he comes to know the value of that advice which the Imam alayhi salam gave him. He comes to know why the Imam alayhi salam sent it back. The point I wish to make is, not only that this establishes the imama, not only that it establishes the ilmul ghaib, ilmul ladunni as we called it on Saturday night of the Imam alayhi salam, but what is of importance to us today is how much care he takes of his shears. In respect of matters of details, we may not receive letters, but things miraculously happen to us which save us from afflictions of this world and the hereafter. Times may be hard, but even in those hard times, there are those who not only know of the difficulties on us and the hard times on us, but not only are prepared, but are keen to help us out. Even when we do good for them by sending to them presents received by us, they return them so that in the hour of need they help us. He, of course, is Babul Hawaij. Tonight we remember yet another Babul Hawaij, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. Babul Hawaij in his own right, who is there in this room perhaps, who has not kept the nazar of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. These nazar of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam are famous primarily for that loyalty with which he dealt with the Imam alayhi salam and considers it his duty to deal with the lovers of the Imam with equal loyalty till today. Invoke him, call for him, and he's always there to help. Indeed, I might say all this because of Bibi Sakina alayha salam. In Karbala, the greatest test on Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was not to fight the enemies of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That was his easiest task. The easiest task for Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was to fight out those infidels who had gathered to fight the Imam alayhi salam. The more difficult job for him was to restrain himself from fighting them at the orders of the Imam alayhi salam. He sets the tents, as we saw, on the brink of Al-Furat. The Imam alayhi salam on the fort says, Abbas, remove the tents. Orders when received from Umar ibn Sa'd that they should be removed, and people come to remove them. The Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam says, I draw this line on sand. If anybody dares come near these tents, I will see the end of him promptly. And these people run back to Umar ibn Sa'ad and says, Abbas, that lion is roaring. He is furious. He'll finish us all if we remove the tents. Imam Hussain alayhi salam calls for him, says, Brother Abbas, remove these tents, my dear brother. He says, but ya ibn Rasulullah, Sayyidi, you know what happened in Siffin. This is how they will treat us. They will deprive us of water, and we have little children with us. The Imam alayhi salam says, Abbas, I do not want this battle to start because of water. I do not want history to say that the battle of Karbala started because Hussein wanted to be at the Furat, and Umar ibn Sa'ad stopped him. Remove these tents. Abbas says, how far will I remove them, Sayyidi? And he says, remove them as far as Umar ibn Sa'ad wants you to remove them. And these tents were removed so far that even the cool breeze of Furat did not reach those tents. But Abbas obeyed. I dare say that obedience was far more difficult for him to achieve. But he did so in loyalty and in obedience to his Imam alayhi salam. On that night of Ashura, when the Imam alayhi salam says, Abbas, go and ask them for the night. Abbas is reported to have paused. Having paused, he lowers his head. Imam Hussain alayhi salam understood and said, oh my brother Abbas, go Abbas and tell them this. And Abbas goes and tells them that. And as he goes, Habib ibn Madahir immediately decides, Zuhr ibn Qayn decides, Abbas is upset, they decide to go with him. He turns to Habib and says, Ya Habib, never in my life have I asked for anything from an infidels like this. My job is to kill them, and I go and ask them for this and make this request for them. Only on the orders of the Imam alayhi salam. And indeed, on the day of Ashura, from dawn, he is out to his brother saying, Mawla, allow me to go and fight these infidels. The Imam alayhi salam says, Abbas, too soon, Abbas, too soon. You and I will fight together. Abbas, he says, you are my commander. How can I let the commander go and die so soon? The other soldiers will go first. But a stage comes when now all companions are gone. The kith and kin are gone. He comes to the Imam and says, Mawla, where is now the army of which I am the commander? Now allow me to go. Imam says, Abbas, you and I will fight together, Abbas. And this is why when everybody had already given their lives and the Imam was fighting alone, a stage came in his jihad when he goes to the body of Abbas and says, Abbas, I said we will fight together. You preceded me. You went away too soon. Abbas, that you might have been alive now to witness the way I am fighting these infidels as you wanted to fight them. Abbas, alas, was never allowed to fight them. We must say that this evening because it consoles Abbas. Abbas's aim was to fight them. That aim never got fulfilled. Hence Babul Hawaij in his reward. But Imam alayhi salam says, Abbas, you and I will fight together. In the meantime, Sakina comes and says, Uncle, we are thirsty. Al-Atash ya Ahmad. We are thirsty. The little children are all thirsty. And Abbas and Sakina brings Hamashk, her water skin with her, saying, Abbas, go and fill this up for me. Hussein looks at Abbas. Abbas now looks at Sakina. Never said no to Sakina in his life before. Beloved of Abbas. Abbas receives the mashk. Imam says, Abbas, go and bring water. The command is not to fight. The command now is only to go and bring water. Abbas, even that, attends to dutifully. Fights those infidels until he gains control over Furat. Rides his horse into Furat. Tells his horse in words that the Urdu poet commemorate saying, Abbas said to the horse, Pee le tu ay faras, ke bahut tishna kaab hai, hum aale Muhammad pe, ye pani haram hai. He tells the horse, you are thirsty, here is all the water for you. Drink it all, for us. the descendants of Prophet Muhammad, this water is forbidden. The horse turns his face away, saying that if you, my master, are thirsty, I will remain thirsty. And every drop of Furat bears witness today that Abbas entered the river thirsty, came out of the river thirsty, but he filled the mishk. Battle is not his purpose. Himself is not important. That mishk with water should reach Sakina. Never has Sakina asked for anything which Abbas failed to produce. So Abbas now moves on. Umar ibn Sa'ad gathers his people, saying that if this mishk goes into the camp, you will all be dead. Not one drop of it must go there. Calls Hurmala and says, Hurmala, call your archers and all of you attack. In the meantime, one Nawfal goes and hits onto the left shoulder of Hazrat Abbas. Indeed, that shoulder is cut off. The arm drops. Now Abbas is left with just one hand. He picks up everything in one hand. The mashk goes first into that hand. And he has got his spear in that hand as well. He protects himself with the spear, holds the mashk, and holds the alam, the flag, the standard, with the other shoulder. He moves on and fights on. Imam Hussain alayhi salam witnesses the battle, sees the standard aloft, says, Alhamdulillah, Barakallahu ya Abbas. And yet a stage comes when the second arm is chopped off. When that happens, Abbas now does not know how to proceed. However, Abbas being himself, before the mashk drops with the arm dropping, he seizes the mashk with his teeth. He clings to that mashk. Now the mashk is hanging on the teeth of Abbas alayhi salam. Now the spear is gone, but that standard is still aloft. The standard is still raised there. Then Hurmala al-Anatullah sends the arrow right onto that mashk, and when the arrow pierces the mashk and water drops to Abbas, his blood may better be dropping than the water from that mashk. Once the mashk goes, Abbas has no reason to live. What he was living for has gone. Abbas is now despondent, and in the meantime, another attack on his head. He is giddy. Now he falls on the ground. But as he falls, the standard wavers, the standard drops. And when the Imam alayhi salam sees the standard has dropped, Zainab comes to him and says, Ya Hussein, the standard I see has dropped. Hussein says, Ya Abbas, Al-An, in khasara dhari. Oh Abbas, now you have broken my back. Abbas moves on. Imam Hussein moves on. But what does he find? He first finds one arm of Abbas, picks it up, says, Abbas, this is but your arm. It doesn't belong to anybody else. The Imam kisses that arm.